Hi, I'm Raquelle, a truth seeker with a deep curiosity who lives to question overshared beliefs.
And I'm Kristina, an interdisciplinary artist who believes in elevating undershared stories.
And we've saved you a seat at the Bombshell Brunches table.
Join us, a community who knows they were put here for more.
We chat with awe-inspiring people who live to make the world a better place in their own way, big or small.
We've got book club and product reviews and break down which tools and tactics we're using in life to help us thrive.
And let's be honest, sometimes just survive.
We'll spill the tea, set up success stories,
and leave you bite-sized takeaways that you can use to build the world you want to see.
Welcome.
That was such a big pause.
Welcome to Ground Zero. This is the first episode of our visual podcast. Yes, this is the origin story episode. How exciting. I really want the dramatic music of like,
See, all I could think of was Eminem's like, please allow me to reintroduce us. Is that even Eminem?
I don't know. I cannot fact check that. I have to keep my phone off for these recordings.
Hip-hop bad.
So welcome. This is Raquelle. I'm Kristina. You know this from other readings and introductions, I'm sure. But for the purposes of today, we wanted to give our origin story and give you a bit of context, a little short, cute Bombshell Brunch bite-sized intro. In case you're wondering, do I want to listen? Do I want to watch this? Do I want to ingest this kind of media?
And this is season 1 of the visual podcast. So some of you, if you're not on Spotify, if you're not on YouTube, or any of the other places like Apple Podcasts, you may be coming in from TELUS STORYHIVE. And if you are, this could be the first time that you're engaging with us.
Yeah. So welcome. Yeah. We're going to do a quick overview of us, our origin story, where we came from, why we're doing this, what kind of topics we cover.
And how we're pivoting. So
That's
if
right.
you have been a long time Bombshell Brunches listener, this might still be of interest to you because we are making some changes that we're really excited about.
Mm-hmm. So we're going to start today with a land acknowledgement. Today we have the great fortune of recording from Vancouver, BC, also known as the unceded and unsurrendered territory of the Coast Salish peoples, namely the Squamish, Tsleil-Waututh and Musqueam nations whose presence here reaches back to time immemorial. We honor their long history of caring for this land that we currently work, play, and reside on, and we aim to uphold and uplift the voice and values of our host nations. A quick note on why we do land acknowledgements. Land acknowledgements have been an Indigenous tradition dating back centuries as a way to show respect for the land that we're on. They give an opportunity to reflect on the impacts of colonialism, reminding us to be accountable to the Indigenous peoples and to thank those who still live on and care for the land.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, do we want to start at the beginning or do we want to start at the end, but where we're going?
I think I'd like to start at the beginning.
Okay,
my one sentence, if I was to do the elevator pitch of why we started Bombshell Brunches, this is all, what I say is we wanted to have brunch. We were sick of the misogyny in the music industry and we wanted our version of a boys club.
Okay, I'm gonna stop that and put a pin in that and say I think we accidentally created our version of a boys club.
That's true.
I think if you really go to the origin of it all, we worked on the business side of the music industry and there was just so few women, and sometimes you were like the only woman in your company, or there was maybe 1 or 2 women in there. And so every time you went to an event and you saw another woman in the music industry from the business side, it was just so exciting because that was someone who had probably similar experiences to you and someone you could relate to. And so we started this brunch group, and it was an email, like a BCC email.
Well, originally in my mind, I had said we also have to credit Raquelle Villagante,
not me.
Another Raquelle. So there were 3 of us. There was Raquelle Villagante, this Raquelle, and a not Raquelle, otherwise known as Kristina. And I had said, I'm really sick of...
Can you imagine if there was 3 Raquelles?
I mean, that would just be called something entirely different other than Bombshell Brunches. It would be called Raquelle Brunches or the Raquelle Racket, you know. But I was sick of the misogyny. I was writing to people who I was working with that I never got to meet. And we were just producing things together, projects and, you know, initiatives that our largely male older counterparts were imposing upon us, you know, rightly because it was our job. But we never got time to gather and commune. And so when I spoke about it to other people, I was like, you know, I'd really just like to have some time to get to be in the same space and basically commune, be able to connect realistically was really all I wanted. We looked at initially, I was like, well, I want to have our boys club. Like, we need to have cigars and be at the Roxy, which is like this dingy nightclub.
I've never been to the
Roxy. I actually
record.
Quite like the Roxy. Can be really fun. Just saying. But dingy is not the right word. It's like kind of a bit dive bar-y.
Does it have sticky floors though?
It does have sticky floors. Yeah. I mean, you know, I like a bit of like to a nightclub.
You're from the UK.
I am. Yeah. Well, I'm from Hong Kong, but
well,
yeah,
true.
London and New York's. Anyway, beside the point. We were like, we want to have this boys club vibe, and then I was like, we actually don't. We want mimosas and tea and brunch and tasty food and good connection. So we just started this Bombshell Brunch group.
Well, it was an email chain, and we had just a handful of people on it, and then I think you had sent it to me, and I made a joke about how we should call it Bombshell Brunches because I was like, wow, all the women on here are such bombshells. And then it stuck, and it was just hilarious. And so that was our subject line, was Bombshell Brunches, which just ended up becoming this whole thing. And, you know, the coolest thing is, I think when you hear like boys club, etc., you're thinking of like an exclusive space to hang out. But what we often don't think about, and the more pervasive story underneath that, is the piece where deals are made, relationships are built. When there's job openings in that hidden job market, those are filled with someone you know is capable of doing the job. You know them on a personal level. You've seen their work within the community. And those were the things that were happening within these, you know, quote unquote boys clubs. Now we had this brunch group, and I don't know if you intended this, but I certainly didn't. I didn't even know this was possible or this was how it worked. But we were seeing the women that we were brunching with. We would get together and just enjoy each other. It was the set rules were no networking.
Yeah, and no cliques. So if someone wants someone else, some other woman or gender diverse person wanted to come in and join, we've never said no.
And it didn't matter what level. It wasn't like, oh, you have to be in the leadership or you have to be junior. Like it was open to whoever kind of had shared experiences within the music community. And you know, we were seeing all of these women all of a sudden like exponentially rise within just a few short years within their careers. And it was because, all of a sudden this person knew this person, recommended them for a job opening, which allowed them to move up that corporate ladder. We all knew kind of the companies to stay away from. I think that's
we shared the stories of the people that we didn't want to, but we became generative. And one thing I realized, and this is something really big for the audience and people listening, is we've brought in people, the guests that we have are the type of people you want on your team. So they're the type of people that like you get to listen to their knowledge. You don't have to agree with absolutely everything everyone says, but you respect it. Like we really respect the people that were showing up, and we didn't even know them.
Yeah.
And I think that was a really important piece.
Yeah. And we weren't sitting there trying to talk about business. We were sitting there talking about Botox or clothes or whatever.
Yeah.
And, you know, sometimes you talk about obviously within that, and once you start getting to know people deeper and more authentically, then maybe you start talking about an experience you had at work, and this other person also had a similar experience, and that's how they handled it. And, you know, just our skills, our opportunities, all of these things started opening up, which was amazing. And like Kristina said, it was very values aligned because it wasn't posted anywhere. So it was like
Still isn't.
No, it isn't. And it's a gut check thing. It's like this person would hold the door open for someone else.
The way I describe it now to people is because we've evolved past the music, beyond the music industry, into anyone who's a creative thinker. And it's creative thinkers who have a penchant for social consciousness, you know, a penchant for being generative, giving to the community around them, and a creative mind. One thing I realized with the Bombshell Brunches group is that we built our own Rolodexes as a result. And one of the things that I think is really important to remember when we're moving and navigating still in a kind of relatively nascent phase of women's rights and equity in this space, in the professional space, is our diary, our black book, our Rolodex is so important. The number of friends, like you said, the number of friends and colleagues, or even people we've said, I know that they've shown up at a Bombshell brunch. I can vouch for their character, not necessarily their work ethic, is often enough to get someone else in the door. And that's not just for women. This is for marginalized and underrepresented people. And I have a whole other group and whole other thread on underrepresented groups. But we're part of that underrepresented group. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. And then I left the music industry, and so I wasn't showing up at Bombshell events anymore because I just felt it was a bit weird since I wasn't working in that industry anymore. And I missed it so much because the conversations were so rich, the relationships were so rich, the value driven, you know, we just did an episode on taking a look at your friend group, your work group, and your family group, and basically the people that surround you. I was missing our people so deeply that Kristina and I got together, and
this is where the story changes.
This is where
you go first.
Our versions diverge. My version is that we went for a drink, and I had been ruminating on this idea of opening Bombshells up to more people because I thought, you know what, these conversations we're having are so incredible. I want to reach out to people who may not have physical access to them, people who live in different cities or live more rural or, you know, don't have the money to come out for a brunch or whatever it is. I want to open this up so that people know that there's other humans out there thinking and feeling and offering to the world in the ways that they want to offer to the world. So I put it out there that maybe we should expand into a podcast.
And I said no.
And she said,
no.
That tracks.
No.
I
said no. I said I don't want to.
You were a little skeptical at first.
I said, I'm pretty sure I said a hard no. Yes. Pretty sure I said I don't want to. This is not of interest. Thank you for your time.
That's not.
I'll see you at the next Bombshell brunch. Raquel also in the same conversation said, by the way, I'm going to do my master's in persuasive communication at university. And I was like, I'm already getting persuaded against my will to do this thing that I don't want to do. And obviously I was very unsuccessful at my attempt to not be in a podcast.
Can I just say, I don't think I have enough opportunities, or I just haven't done it enough. I cannot tell you how glad I am to have you as a co-host. Truly.
You know, compliments will get you everywhere.
Truly.
Apparently they will get you into over 200 or up to 200 interviews. I have been living on compliments.
Eating compliments for
breakfast. I have been eating compliments for breakfast in order to sustain myself to do this podcast that I did not choose to do, but apparently I'm here.
Right. So we've done over 160 episodes at this point. They're not all on Spotify. Some of them were a live stream series that we did with TELUS, so you can see those ones on YouTube.
StoryHive, yeah.
TELUS STORYHIve. And we did all of these incredible interviews from all over the world, actually. I was recording in
Amsterdam. Yeah, because she decided to start this podcast and then leave. Let's just continue this story. Start the podcast and then, by the way, I got into that that master's program. So I'm leaving to Amsterdam. And then shortly thereafter, oh, by the way, I'm going to South Africa where they do this thing called load shedding.
Yeah.
And so we had to buy Steve, this remote Wi-Fi thing.
Which actually I saw him show up in my laptop the other day under VPNs. And I was like, Steve.
In order for us to conduct podcast interviews from all time zones with limited power.
Not even just limited. I mean, they would just shut it down. And of course, load shedding often happened at the exact time, because we're in a 10-hour time difference, that we would be doing the podcast.
That was so great.
And I needed it to work for my lights and for my, because all the power would shut off. It was dark out. Anyways.
Meanwhile.
I digress. We've done many, many podcast episodes with many, many incredible guests.
Let's go into what the topics kind of are. Because if you're
before.
wanting, right, what they were and
Yes.
and where we're moving to.
Yeah, okay.
Right.
So health, wealth, life design?
Yeah, I guess the best way we started it was when we started, we were like, well, what's really important? We want it to be kind of industry agnostic.
Yeah.
We want this to be for people, for anyone who feels underrepresented. We want to share shared stories, and we want to make sure that we have a way to help nourish people to be their best version of themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Live the life the way they want to, because we live so unintentionally a lot of the time,
And I feel like those were the types of conversations we were having at brunch.
Yeah.
That we were sharing resources, we were sharing acupuncture, or we were sharing ocean as a, how do you?
Trauma release therapist.
That's the one.
Mm-hmm.
We were sharing all of these things, and that's just the content we were ready to create.
Right. We wanted to help people elevate, because really, when it comes down to it, all of our guests, I'll be totally honest, are people we want to talk to help elevate ourselves. Yes. That's the best way we can present to all of you, is finding things that we need right now in our life authentically. I know that's an overused word, but like, I genuinely can only really speak to the things that are happening in my life right now. And so we're choosing guests that we think that our friends, our Bombshell Brunches crew, our audience is going to like, because we share the same values. So
100%.
And these values are, we want to elevate, and we're ambitious, and we're creatively minded, and we're socially minded, and we want to leave the world a better place than we found it. And that's what really led us to the next iteration.
Yes.
Do you want me to go? You go. I was on a roll. But...
You were on such a roll. I thought you were just going to dive right into it, but then you did a handover.
Because you helped me really dig it. Like, these are all the puns. These are puns going to come out now. You helped me really dig down into the root of what we stand for.
Yeah, I do that.
You do that.
I do that. I think it's really important. I feel like that's been something we've been talking about this whole season, this whole grounding season, is reassessing at regular intervals.
Yeah.
And, we hit summertime and we needed to reassess. What is Bombshells to us? Where are we going in life? Does it still track? Does this still make sense for the things that we want to do? And
then we took this out to our Bombshell Brunches group, and we were like, we're feeling like this as a podcast, but we're also feeling like this as people.
Yeah.
Where am I in life? What do I want to do? Where do I want to live? Am I happy with these things?
Yeah.
Am I surviving, or
who are our listeners and what are they looking for?
Yeah. What do we need?
Yeah. So we did some values exercises ourselves. We had some conversations about our goals and ambitions over the next few years together. And then we did a survey that we put out to our Bombshell listeners, and as well as kind of our guests and the people who inspire us to be and do what we do.
And I will say we had great feedback from StoryHive. The StoryHive programs have been incredible throughout.
Mentoring is a piece of this project that we get. So that's been fantastic.
Yeah. Thanks,
Shout out to
Georgina and T and Audrey and Lynette. And there's so many people. So many people. And Laura Duncan originally, like this. Anyway, name dropping everybody. I'm not sure if we're allowed to do that, but
I don't know either.
We'll celebrate. Yeah. Okay. Please continue.
Yeah. So anyways, we took all of this information, we kind of drilled into it all, and it was really interesting what we came out with from my standpoint. And I checked everything that we came out with against our old episodes. And I was like, even though our content pillars are new and are changing, and the way we're packaging it is new and changing, majority, like a vast majority, I want to say like 98% of our episodes still tracked.
Yeah.
Which felt really right to me. I was like, okay, this is an evolution. It's not a complete change. So our whole mentality, our motto before was be brave, live full. And we are now working with the idea of change the world, start with you. What we realized is both of us and all of our listeners and the people that are our guests, we're changing the world in some way, big or small. And that was really, really something that they were passionate about. That's something that we're passionate about. And so it just made sense that we really brought that into our new branding.
One of the things that I want to add to that is people were changing the world, but we were starting with ourselves, because a lot of the time you can have people who want to change the world, but they're not looking after themselves first.
Yes.
And so that is one of the things. If you're the type of person who really wants to elevate, who would love to leave the world better than you found it, we are here to help you do that in a sustainable way and to bring on guests that help you to look after yourself, because as natural nurturers, it's really... whether it doesn't matter what gender you are or what walk of life you are or what time of life you're in. If you are looking to do bigger, we're here to help you be stronger at that. And I think that's a really important piece to have. You know, when I listen to my Jay Shetty podcast, or we listen to, you know, we're all listening to these development based podcasts and how to kind of elevate. The piece that I think we really lock into is how to celebrate the local side of things. We love where we live. We celebrate the people that we're around, our neighborhoods and our communities. But we're also really looking at how do we give the most without giving out of ourselves and taking, so that we're not sustaining and we're not thriving. You know, we're generating, but we're fulfilling ourselves.
And I think you hit a certain level and you need to shift how you do things. Like what got you there won't get you here. Is that right?
Yeah.
What got you here won't get you there.
Yeah. What got you to here won't get you to there. Or as Barbara Deutsch says, I love this quote, make the ceiling the floor.
Ooh, I like that. And and it's different because, you know, we'll have a future guest on who I'm going to have talk about this, but there's an idea if you just hustle more, you'll be able to achieve more. And at a certain point that stops working. So we're here to talk about strategies and tools that either we're using or our guests are using to be able to create more impact while still living a healthy life. Yeah. We're going to bring on, you know, the people that inspire us, that we see changing the world
in health, in wellness, in lifestyle, clinical counselors, trauma release therapists,
and just policy and equity, and this we've had diversity. Like, you know, I feel like we're doing DEI. No, but I think we're really almost looking back. We're zooming out and we're saying, okay, if we want to really change the world, how can we do that? How can we do that as a group? It could be something small where you're like super kind to the person bagging your groceries. Or, you know, you go to a Canucks game and the person that shows you where to be seated, maybe, I don't know, if you have like a regular season's pass, you give them a little gift. I don't know.
Or it could be as big as negotiating your salary so that you have an extra 25% to give 5% to a charity.
Totally. Or it could be even bigger where we're talking about, you know, maternity policy from a federal standpoint. So we're really looking at this from different angles, and we're looking at this from, you know, micro to macro, macro to micro. I don't know. Anyways, we're looking at this from the zoom in to the zoom out. And we're trying to bring you people that I think you can be inspired by, and that you can have some real takeaways from. And I really encourage you to sign up for our newsletter, because with all of our guests, we're actually doing a Q&A afterwards, where they can give you actual tools and tactics that they recommend you start with, something that applies to their episode. So you can get those little extras when you sign up for the newsletter.
So, welcome to the season. Change the world. Start with you.
Yeah.
It's Bombshell Brunches.
So good to meet you, or so good to have you back.
There's ways to intervene, and there's ways to show up, and there's ways to change perception of public. There's ways to change systems. But all of that is rooted in a personal practice. And so for me, I think the number one takeaway is, one, you're going to feel overwhelmed. Two, though, build a personal practice that helps keep you grounded.
Will say that I had a lot of people who've, as I was canvassing people and saying, what do you think? Do you want one? Do you not want one? A lot of people were like, oh, I really want one because I feel like it would give me good data, but I don't want one because I feel like I'll obsess over that data. And I was like, that's a really good point. And I wondered whether I was going to do the same thing.
I wondered whether you were too.
Yeah, I do have that personality type.
People, I'm blessed. I don't have a job. I have a passion. And I have a gift, and this gift is ODE, is the coaching element, and it's something that I get to do every day. I get to wake up and do what I love every single day. And this is exactly what little Effie in that hospital bed dreamt of, that she would walk her backside off to be able to be so independent and be her own woman, that she can have so much surplus, whether little or big, depending on how people see their success. For me, is people. Is building something that you can be proud of. Not your account, is the people that you helped. That is a success for me. And be able to actually like give back the same way my mom always did. So for me, I'm like, I'm lucky. I am blessed. I am so blessed.
That you are a time optimist.
Oh my God.
I think you are a time
I'm going to
optimist.
start saying that now.
Christina does love to be off. Like, you love a good
lolling.
spa day.
Oh my gosh, lolling is my favorite.
Right? Like, she loves, you know,
love
I
to
feel like a
loll.
true workaholic, they're the people who, like, are sitting there fidgeting, like, they can't handle a day off. They want to go back to work. They don't know who they are without it. I feel like you know who you
I know
are.
exactly who I
You
am.
would happily
Scandinav.
do your own thing.
Yeah.
You would make your music. Like, you would
100%.
you would just do, like, I feel like, yes.
You're
would
right.
Catnap
Thank you.
all day.
You're right.
But, you know, you want to do a lot of things. You have big ideas. You have big dreams. And you are a bit of a time optimist. You're very quick, but you forget about burnout.
It's true. And it keeps coming to get me like a sack of potatoes.
Raised in this survival state, it was like it's in my DNA. Like the capacity to push myself beyond exhaustion was something I learned at 12 years old.
Just keep it going. Keep it going. It's
Yeah.
like keep the balls in the air.
Yeah.
Whatever you have to do, just keep it going.
Yeah, and do more, because if you do more, then you'll finally feel okay. Someday, at some point, when you get another thing done, or I mean, in this, you know, in the case, the way that I talk about it now, it's like when you get 10 more emails dealt with, and you get, you know, that one project when that's done, or when
It's a trap.
yeah, right? It's the trap.
not real.
Yes, exactly. So dispelling that illusion for myself was part of my own journey of going, the answer to feeling okay is never going to be found in doing more and in pushing harder.
Actually see when we look at the statistics is that profitability increases exponentially when companies invest in wellness for their employees. And that stat is 4-to-1. So for every $1 a company spends on wellness for their teams, they get $4 back in profitability.
And that's in Canada.
That's Canada. That's a Canadian statistic. If we're looking at the whole picture, because obviously I don't want to glorify just that stat, it's the range truly, if we're looking at every industry across everything that's operating in Canada, it's like $1.75 to $4 in return. So you're almost doubling it, even on the low end, right? And companies especially coming out of COVID, a huge piece of what we see is that people want different things than what they did pre-COVID. And if organizations aren't going to offer that for their well-being, you're going to see profitability decrease.
In a regular business, you would say, okay, here's this need, I'm going to fill the need. Whereas in a social entrepreneurship kind of company, you're more going inwards and then you're reverse engineering. Is that kind of what I'm hearing?
Yeah, absolutely. So instead of doing like a market research survey or something like that, you're actually mining your personal experience and perhaps something, that's happened to someone you love as well. It's not just a purely personal. I've seen many, many cases that have been absolutely driven by love for another person, whether that's a parent for a child or for siblings or whatever, where, anyways, there's a challenge there and you see a way to address it and you take it on. And so, yeah, it's far less linear. But what is amazingly potent about doing that, when you do that inner work of understanding what the values are, why you're doing it, the Simon Sinek's, famous why, it's so potent, because that is one of the biggest tools in business, is telling stories, right? You need to be able to say, who are you and why are you doing this, and why should they care, right?
Thanks for showing up, Bombshells. We'd like to thank our brilliant media and production team for their incredible work on each episode. We look so shiny because of them. As for you, my darlings, head to our website, bombshellbrunches.com, to sign up to the mailing list for future events and deals, connect with us on socials, dig into resources, and leave us little love notes. Until next time, stay focused, fierce, and fabulous.